So thank you for joining with me for part 2 in the workbook for students of A Course in Miracles. And I read that backwards, or said it backwards. Here we are in lesson 223. God is my life. I have no life but Him. I was mistaken when I thought I lived apart from God, a separate entity which moved in isolation, unattached, and housed within a body. Now I know my life is God. I have no other home, and I do not exist apart from Him. He has no thoughts that are not part of me, and I have none but those which are of Him. Our Father, let us see the face of Christ instead of our mistakes, for we who are your Holy Son are sinless. We would look upon our sinlessness, for guilt proclaims that we are not your Son, and we would not forget you longer. We are lonely here and long for heaven where we are at home. Today we would return. Our name is yours, and we acknowledge that we are your Son. And I will read the commentary before we move into meditation, and I will finish up with what is forgiveness. For August 11th, lesson 223, God is my life. I have no life but His. This is Practice Comments by Robert Perry. In praying this particular prayer, I find it helpful to convert it to first person singular. My Father, let me see the face of Christ instead of my mistakes, etc. Commentary by Alan Watson. Our only mistake is thinking that we have some sort of life apart from God. We do not. God is life. He is being. He is existence. He created all that there is, and there is nothing apart from Him. Nothing can be apart from Him and live. I do not exist apart from Him. Most of my time here on earth I have spent thinking of myself as someone or something apart from God. Most of my spiritual seeking has been a striving to get back to God, as if He were unimaginably distant from me. He is not distant. He is not something separated from myself. I have no life but His. There is a blessing often used in unity churches which ends with the words, "Wherever I am, God is." Yes, my life is God's life. My thoughts are God's thoughts. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to do to find Him. He is here. He is with me. He is with us. He is my life. If I live, I am participating in God. There is a blessed relief that washes over us when we realize our unity with God. All the bitter struggle, all the fruitless longing, all the aching sense of being on the outside looking in, all of it ends. A thought of pure joy fills our minds. At times it bubbles over into laughter, a certain compassionate amusement at the ludicrous idea that we have tormented ourselves with, that we could ever in any remote or tiny way be separated from Him. Can the sunbeam be separate from the sun? Can an idea be separate from the mind that thinks it? And so we turn again to the quiet place within, where all this is already known. We ask to see the face of Christ instead of our mistakes. We affirm that we no longer want to be lost in forgetfulness. We state clearly that we want to leave our loneliness and find ourselves, as we have always been, at home. And in the quiet, God speaks to us and tells us we are His Son. And now we will prepare for meditation. If you'd like to close your eyes, I'll read and you can take it in. God is my life. I have no life but Him. I was mistaken when I thought I lived apart from God, a separate entity which moved in isolation, unattached and housed within a body. Now I know my life is God. I have no other home, and I do not exist apart from Him. He has no thoughts that are not part of me, and I have none but those which are of Him. Father, please let me see the face of Christ instead of my mistakes, for I am your holy Son and sinless. I would look upon my sinlessness, for guilt proclaims that I am not your Son, and I would not forget you longer. I am lonely here and long for heaven where I will be at home. Today I would return. My name is yours, and I acknowledge that I am your Son. God is my life. I have no life but Him. read the commentary on the what is forgiveness section. It's paragraph 2, sentence 1 and 2. And I recorded this entire section. If you would like to listen to that, you should read it once a day. You shouldn't, I don't like saying you should, but it's suggested to read it once a day at any time. An unforgiving thought is one which makes a judgment that it will not raise to doubt, although it is untrue. The mind is closed and will not be released. And this is Alan Watson's commentary on this part, on the workbook, part 2, 1, paragraph 2, sentences 1 and 2. The second paragraph is all about unforgiveness. The distinguishing characteristic of an unloving thought is that it makes a judgment that it will not raise to doubt, although it is not true. The distinguishing characteristic of a forgiving mind, then, is that this mind will be willing to cast doubt on its own judgments. The unforgiving mind is saying, my mind is already made up, don't confuse me with facts. The forgiving mind is saying, perhaps there is another way to look at this. In the section discussing the 10 characteristics of advanced teachers of God, which is in section 4 of the Manual for Teachers, the final characteristic is open-mindedness. It says, a judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher. So open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf. The willingness to let go of our own judgments and hear the judgment of the Holy Spirit is what makes forgiveness possible. An unforgiving mind is closed and will not be released. The forgiving mind is open. Over and over, the Course asks us simply to be willing to see things differently. Simply to be willing to question what we think we know. Simply do this. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is, all concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. With judgment set aside, what then is free to take its place is now the will of God. That's why I love that set-aside prayer that I use with the text reading. I feel like it saved my life, but that's another. It did save my life. Lesson 223. Okay, it helped me on my path to awakening. Lesson 223, God is my life. I have no life but His. Thank you so much for joining with me. I love you.